Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The aim is to show that there's more than one way to climb the corporate ladder. Today, we've got a very interesting guest for you today. Excuse me, I've just got my phone for some reason is going off, but it's my colleague and he's going to know. So the main aim of the show is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. A reminder, this is a rush week. We've got 4 episodes in 1 week. We're hoping to provide you with as much value as possible in a short space of time. A reminder that the show will be available on YouTube and podcast by latest tomorrow morning. So if you're watching live, drop a 1 in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves. And if you're watching the recording, please drop a 2 in the comments. My guest today is from the other side of the pond. Darren Isaacs, the CASA, is also the CEO of Makosi Consulting. So his company provides South African finance and tax professionals with opportunities to work for US companies. Darren, thanks so much for joining us today. To jump straight into questions, tell us your story. Where do you come from outside of work? Who is Darren Isaacs?
So I actually live in California, so it's 7 o'clock in the morning here. So I always warn people that it's 7 o'clock in the morning. It's feeding time, so kids are possibly going to run in. So we'll just tolerate that. But yeah, I was lucky enough in I think 2002 to come with PwC on secondment to New York, and it was an incredible experience. And it was actually, I believe, the first year that PwC did actually offered secondments. I was quite lucky that I was able to do it in my 3rd year of articles. So I'm a CA ex PwC, came to New York with them in 2002. Left PwC shortly thereafter, set up Makosi, and was ultimately able to get myself to New York in 2006. So I've been operating Makosi Consulting since 2006, which is kind of crazy. It's 15, 16 years now. And it's been an absolute incredible adventure.
16 years to be because I've only started hearing about you in the last year. So clearly it's been building and finally starting to hit that. Well, starting to hit the radars of a lot of other people. And just from a personal point of view, what do you do? Are you a sports person? Tell us a little bit about that side.
Yeah, so I actually like to build guitars. So I'm a woodworker, love building guitars. I also like cycling and running. And I live in a beautiful place in California, which is very similar to Stellenbosch. So there's lots of hiking, lots of wine, lots of outdoor activities. So that's what I like to do. Okay.
Tell us a little bit. So you've given us a brief backstory of Makosi, but tell us a little bit more about so that people don't yet know.
Yeah, so I guess it's an interesting story. I was able to get myself out to New York in as I said there, 2006. And if I'm completely honest, I didn't really have a plan. I said if I come to America with the CASA, I was confident in my own abilities. I was pretty sure that I could figure things out. And very quickly, really within about 6 months, I had networked, I had met a lot of people, and we had already built up our team of consultants to about 40 people. Back then, most of the work we were doing was in banking. So we were doing a lot of middle office and reg work in banking. And our accounting business really only started about 1.5 years later, because we figured that with the challenging recruiting environment in America, it was often easier to go abroad and look for talent. So we used to import a lot of people from Australia, South Africa, and London as well. So we became very good at doing the visas, the accommodation, and providing a whole experience about international work. And a light bulb came on, going back to my days as a secondee with PwC, saying, why couldn't we do the same thing for audit firms? So at that time, about 2007, we had 2 divisions in the company, which was our banking division and then our audit division as well.
Okay. And tell me, how can the viewers become part of the Makosi journey? Do they work remotely, or they travel opportunities? Give us a little bit more of color around that.
So yeah, it's a bit of a long it's a bit of a long story there. So if people want to get involved, go to Makosi.com, and we've actually built a huge amount of technology to actually help people through this process and help us to manage the whole process around how we work with our clients, not just at the beginning of the process, but all the way through until the point where we want to drive loyalty and advocacy. So go to Makosi.com, hit consultants and go through your application. You can actually sign up using LinkedIn, just to make it easy. But in terms of what we're really trying to do in the industry, we have this idea that there's nothing wrong with audit, but we feel that there's a big problem with the employment model around audit. And we're kind of trying to make audit sexy. Okay, we see that there's a huge amount of benefits for being a CA, going through articles and staying in that. We've always provided on-site work, so on-site in New York, in Australia, in Malta, Singapore. This year with COVID, obviously about 90% of our work is being delivered virtually. But we see that hopefully when COVID goes away, we'll probably still be about 40% virtual, 60% on-site in our global locations.
Okay, so if somebody's not sure what they want to do with their life, there's still an opportunity to do some traveling post-COVID, hopefully. And I was actually not even aware that I thought it was all in the US. So there's still opportunities outside the US as well.
Oh, absolutely. So we service the US, Canada, England, Malta, talking to clients in Italy at the moment, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand. I'm sure there's a few others. So global locations right now.
I've dealt with some of those Italian clients. They're interesting characters, wow. Let's put it that way. We work in a different wavelength. They can just scream at you whenever they feel like it, and this is not something that I enjoy. But they're quite interesting.
I think just to touch on your point there about not being sure what you wanted to do. So as we see, a lot of people come to the end of articles and they're trying to figure out exactly what they're trying to do. Maybe they're thinking about getting out of audit. Maybe they're just trying to dip their toes in the water there. So I think there's just such a great opportunity to stay within audit, get some international experience behind you, because it really changes you. It makes you a much more well-rounded person. Incredible clients, dealing with clients in Italy, so it's experiencing those different cultures. So we feel that our kind of mandate, or our hope, is that people stay in audit. So we used to be a secondment company. We used to provide just a 2 or 3 month secondment, but right now it's a year-round experience. And we've done something which we call changing a year in the life of an auditor. So there's year-round work. There's charity work as well that's sprinkled in as well. There's growth camps that we put people through as well. So it's a real kind of year-round experience coming on an engagement with us. But we just want to give people this idea that staying in audit is not the end of the world. There's a huge amount you'll learn in that year, and a lot of people are actually sticking around and seeing that it's the benefits outweigh the cons, really.
And in terms of your experience, where you mentioned the people sticking around, do they get opportunities to then work for other companies in the US, etc. After what has been the track record like?
Yeah, so we actually have a platform which we call Makosi Plus. I don't want to get too into it, right? But Makosi Plus is a 3-tiered, almost membership program. The first tier is everyone who joins us gets to do international charity work. It's full salary. We have a tight relationship with 1% for the Planet, a number of charities in Malawi and Mongolia as well. So if you join up with us, you get access to do that international charity work. It appeals to a certain population of our applicants. The second pillar is our growth camps, as I mentioned there. So tight relationship with Tony Robbins, Singularity University as well, strategic coach. So a lot of people want to grow and get additional skills. So we have a whole 6-week program putting people through amazing mindset coaching. The last category is access to our portfolio of downstream relationships. So through our technology, we have just a whole beautiful array of clients who dip into our tech and are able to kind of pull people out of there, and whether it's outside of audits or it's in industry. So it just gives people joining us a lot more confidence that there's something beyond, this initial first year engagement with us.
No, that's correct. A reminder to the audience that we will be responding to questions towards the end. So please add your questions to the comments now so that we don't miss them towards the end. You mentioned, Darren, that you said 2005, 2006 that you started the company and you moved to the US. Tell us about, and it's a bit of a while ago, but the differences in how you settled in. What are the differences in working in the US compared to working in South Africa?
I think it was definitely a cultural adaptation. I think coming from South Africa, South Africans are very boisterous and loud and love to have fun. So I did find being sarcastic and that type of thing wasn't really something at least my clients in America really appreciated. So in the beginning, I probably had to tone down my personality a little bit. But having said that, I think the most appealing thing or most exciting thing about coming to America is that it was actually quite easy. It was quite easy because there's so much action, there's so much activity, so many people, so much money and commerce, that it was quite easy to become a small fish in a huge pond. And being a small fish here is really a big deal. So it was easy to get meetings. People were very curious about my background. And being in New York City, it's a tiny place. It's 5 Ks wide by 10 Ks long, and you are just buzzing around on subways and taxis. So you can get through a huge amount of meetings and interactions in a day of flying around in a taxi. So that was pretty cool.
So you moved from that New York buzz to California. Was that a recent move? And tell us about the change.
So yes, leaving South Africa is a hard thing to do. So leaving the climate and the culture, the slower way of life. So we actually moved out to a little place in California in August actually. So we have been planning it for about 7 years. We always found New York very, very hectic, cold and that type of thing. And having three young kids, we decided in the middle of a pandemic, let's get out of here. If you're going to be on lockdown,
to the other side of the country. I suppose go big or go home.
Exactly right.
Moving a little bit to current events with the inauguration happening last week, has the temperature changed a little bit? Because I've always thought I'd like to visit the US, but as a Muslim, I don't want to be kept at the borders and sent home. So I'm always like, okay, now I'm going to wait my turn before I decide to visit the country. Yeah,
look, I don't want to get too political, but I guess I'll say that it does feel like a huge sigh of relief. It was a pretty intense environment for sure. So just it does feel like a sigh of relief. People are a lot more energized, excited, and it's definitely going to do good things for immigration and that type of thing for us as well.
Okay, no, that's great. Let's have a look at this. If there's any questions from the audience, I'm just going to scroll through some and bring them up on the screen. So we've got a question here from Zubair, who says, how did you build your capital to start a business as a South African with a dollar cost of company business model? That's a good question.
Yeah. Very, very tough, because coming to America without any kind of real background. In fact, just to get an apartment, you had to go through a credit check. And so you arrive in America, you want to get an apartment, they run you through a credit check, and I don't have any credit background at all. So it was very, very challenging back then to actually become credit worthy. And even when we started getting established, it still became difficult because Makosi is owned out of South Africa. Our holding company is in South Africa. So ultimately, even banks who we interacted with, they said, well, we don't have jurisdiction in South Africa. So going the traditional banking route was very, very challenging. If I had to do it differently, I probably would have just pushed harder on innovative banks. But we ultimately ended up doing it organically. So we paced our growth with how much cash we had available. And I guess if I had done it differently, I would have looked for more innovative partners to help us. But the benefit for us right now is that we have an absolutely spotless balance sheet. We don't have a cent of debt on our balance sheet. So it was hard in the beginning, but I think it's definitely helped us at this point now.
I'm going to ask your advice quickly. So a lot of the companies that we deal with say that they want to get a presence in the US and they don't know which state to go into. So which state did you start in from a business, and what would be your recommendation?
The long and short of it is that it doesn't actually matter all that much. People like to use Delaware as a state. The only reason for that, to my knowledge anyway, is if you have any type of litigation. So if you get sued or you're suing somebody, it's great to pursue it in Delaware because it's the most efficient legal system in from a state perspective. But outside of that, from taxes and that type of thing, you're actually really taxed based on where your activity is. So, for example, we have consultants in about 40 different states. So we get taxed in every single one of those states. We get a tax return about this big. So ultimately, it doesn't really matter unless you are concerned about some type of litigation in your future.
That's good. That's good to know. It's good to know. We've got another question here from Duku, who says, "Does Makosi sponsor F1 visa students for employment?"
So the F1 visa is actually not sponsored by an employer, to my understanding. The F1 visa is a visa that the school will actually provide for students coming to America. What happens though is that at the end of that schooling, you have a period called OPT, which is optional practical training. So you get, I think it's 2 or 3 years where as a student coming out of college, you can go work for an employer, and you're on this kind of temporary middle ground where it's not a long-term visa. So we do OPT work. We'll take people out of college in America with the goal of ultimately getting them H-1B visas or green cards. So we have done quite a bit of that. But just to be clear, the F1 is actually a student visa sponsored by the college.
Okay. And anything that you, last few words from you that you want to mention, anything that you think will be important for the audience to know, whether it's about Makosi or your industry in general? Especially, I know your website mentions tax, but you didn't mention tax too much. Is there opportunities for tax professionals as well?
So
sorry, that was 2 questions.
Tax is a bit of a tricky one, okay? But I think what I would say to the kind of CASA community is that the world is a huge place, and there's so much opportunity out of there. We aren't really interested in bringing people out of South Africa and creating a type of a brain drain scenario there, which is why we have such a tight relationship with SAICA. So SAICA really gets excited about what we're doing because we're actually helping spread global awareness for what a CASA is. And I think with virtual now, there's been such an opportunity for us to open up additional locations and just create more opportunity for CAs there. Every year, we're very proud of this. Every year, we have about 2,500 CAs applying for our program. But we think that that's still a fairly small percentage of the population out there. So we have 100% inbound applications. We aren't a recruiting company. We don't have job boards and this type of thing. So we're very proud of the community that we've built there, the word of mouth, the referral base, and it's hugely rewarding to provide global opportunities for CAs. When it comes, just to answer your question on the tax side, so we deliver services to our clients in 3 different ways. There's on-site, virtually, and digitally. So we're doing a huge amount of work in the automation space as well. And we feel that clients should be considering automation as an extension of their overall workforce strategy instead of a technology or a business agenda. The services we provide are external audit, internal audit, IT audit as well, FP&A work, financial statement prep as well. The tax thing is actually more of an onshore play in America because of the local requirements about tax. But if there are any people sitting in South Africa with US or Australian tax experience, definitely get onto makosi.com and submit an application there.
So we've got a few questions slipping through. I'm just going to see if I can steal your time for a few more minutes. Lucas wants to know, do you see Makosi competing with the big four firms in the future, not just being a consulting firm?
Very good question. So our ultimate goal is to become the biggest employer of auditors without providing assurance services. Okay, so we don't like the idea of giving assurance ourselves, but we love the idea of creating an incredible employment model for auditors. The big four are actually our clients, so we work tightly with EY and KPMG as well. So even the big four see that creating a more flexible and nimble workforce is definitely a strategy that they want to be getting involved in. I think overall, the big four and the audit market in general, firms are spending a lot more time building up their advisory practices because audit is becoming a lower margin business for audit firms. So audit is often this thing off on the side there, trying to provide as much value as possible to their stakeholders. But it is a competitive and lower margin environment, which is where flexible workforce really helps. But the big four and most audit firms globally are trying to get more of their revenue towards advisory, and that's where we see a lot of opportunities to help get CAs into the audit side of things, but start moving them more into advisory and other kind of higher value functions for everybody, really.
And this is actually a great question. Saliswa wants to know, does Makosi want experience specifically from Big Four, or are they open to all firms from a training perspective?
We take people from all firms, really. We have started also doing a little bit of top articles as well, but definitely all manner are already applying for us at the moment. What we're also doing quite a bit of currently is partnering with audit firms globally to actually give us their people, because there's a great employee retention mechanism involved here. So a smaller firm who wants to retain good people, they want to provide the opportunity to get their people international experience. We're doing a lot of partnerships where we're actually collaborating with those firms so that we can take their people, give them a great experience, and then bring them back home.
Oh, perfect. Darren, thank you so much for your time.
I think we've lost Tooways there. You there, Tooways? Good stuff, guys. I think we lost Tooways over there. Appreciate everyone for joining. Tooways will send out a recording of this, but definitely go to makosi.com, submit an application if you're interested. And if you're interested in referring friends as well, we have an amazing referral program, which is done online to makosi.com/referrals. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.
My apologies, everyone. We've had a small power outage, but luckily we were at the end of our call. I want to again thank Darren for his time, and just a reminder that if you the next episode will be tomorrow, and we have one Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Apologies again for the power outage. Thank you so much to Darren for his time, and thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you again on the next episode. Bye-bye.